Hello YouTube, it's Craig with CasWorks Woodworking. Well, I just wrapped up this coffee table. Let me walk you through it, start to finish. You may recall this tree that fell in my backyard and in the neighbor's yard about 4 years ago. Well, I've gotten around to using some of the pieces that I cut up. I cut up a bunch of cookies. Now I'm going to put it into this table. I start off by simply removing the bark from each of the 3 pieces. It's really easy to do this with a chisel and a mallet. It was ready to come off. There wasn't much effort behind it. I plan on using a router sled for the flattening of these cookies. However, the difference between the high sections and the low sections was pretty considerable. So I thought I'd at least knock those down with the hand plane and get it a little more uniform. That way I wouldn't have to make as many passes with the router sled. I think it worked out pretty well. I was able to comfortably secure the cookie in place so that it wouldn't move while I routed it with the router sled. The sled did a great job. It got it done just the way I wanted. I had to do multiple passes to get to the right level, which was just fine. The unfortunate part is that I purchased the wrong bit. The shank was metric rather than a ½ inch like I needed, so it was about a 32nd of an inch too thin, and it couldn't get tight. So I had to go with my 3/4 inch bit. That just took quite a lot of passes in order to get the same amount of work done. But I pressed on. It worked out great, and I was happy that I put this sled together. Once I got one side flat of each of the 3 cookies, I put the flat side down for all 3 of them, put them in the sled together so that I could ensure that all 3 cookies were the same thickness. That seemed to work out very well. There were quite a few defects and cracks that I needed to reinforce with bow ties. I also wanted to join the three pieces together with a bow tie bridging the gap. In order to do that, I carefully cut a flat side on one end of the two end pieces. I did that on the miter saw, and then the middle piece I put a flat side on both sides. That way they would come together and I would have a lot of surface area for glue and the bow ties. And now you can see that I have a pattern that I made for the bow ties, and I'm carefully starting out the routing process here. Before commencing with the glue up, I made sure that the sides were thoroughly cleaned of any debris. I just wanted to make sure that there was a good bond for anything I applied, whether when I got to the finish. And it was easiest to clean these up before I glued them together, because there would be some crevices that it would be very difficult to get into. I also knocked down the edges to give it kind of a soft feeling. I didn't want any abrupt, sharp edges. I made the determination that I needed a few more bow ties to make sure that these cracks were stabilized. After the glue had cured on the bow ties, I once again turned to the router sled to knock all of that down so it would be flush and smooth. I also put bow ties on the bottom to stabilize it there. I will also be using a piece of C-channel that will span all three pieces for additional support. Since I will need to route out a groove to accept the C-channel, I had to double up my bow ties here. Otherwise, I would have cut right through the one that I had, and it would have served no purpose. I made a template to route the groove to accept the C channel, and I simply tape that on the table using double-sided tape. I had to make multiple passes to get to the desired depth. You can see the green C channel I plan on using. As you can see, the center part will not go the same depth as the edges. So here I had to take off my template and just use this straight edge so that the outside edges of that groove could be made deeper to accept those side edges of the channel. Here I'm drilling holes for the threaded inserts. I will put those in, and then I will use bolts to secure the C channel to those inserts. Before installing the C channel, I sprayed these grooves with shellac because I wouldn't be able to get to it once this channel was installed. I also needed to touch up a few cracks with some epoxy. I had done some epoxy filling on the top side as well. I went through the grits both on the top and the bottom. I also sanded by hand the edges. I applied a flood coat of epoxy just to seal everything on the top side. Once that cured, again I went through the grits with sanding, and then I applied a coat of Odie's oil to the entire table. Really happy with how it just made everything pop, especially looking at all this end grain on the top of the table. It also made a nice contrast between the cookies and the bow ties. Since these cookies aren't a uniform shape, I made a template so that I could place the legs in a very proper location so that aesthetically they would look good. And here's the final product. I hope you like it. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. As always, have a great week.